Power Rangers. I mean, it's just a good time. But for all the fondness many of us have of this franchise, there are some dark implications and fan theories surrounding it. I can't wait, let's get right into it. These are disturbing Power Rangers theories we can no longer ignore. So Power Rangers fans love to joke about this one. Angel Grove, the city where most of the original Mighty Morphin Rangers stories take place, it would be a terrible place to live. I mean, this isn't even really a theory, it's just how it is. Watch the show. Almost every week, this poor town gets attacked by a new monster, and then giant robots are constantly battling huge versions of them, smashing through buildings, parking lots, factories. Imagine being a shop owner in an environment like this. Storefronts would be probably cheap as hell to rent, but only because you're living basically in a war zone. The economy would be in the toilet. No wonder these kids spend so much of their time at the recreation center at school. They have nowhere else to go. I mean, are you kidding me? These are the kids who choose to spend their time at a juice bar after class instead of doing, I don't know, anything else? It's because all the cool places keep getting wrecked by giant turtles with traffic lights attached to their bodies. Or a big pig monster wearing an ancient Roman centurion helmet for some reason. How could Angel Grove afford to rebuild the same skyscrapers and abandoned warehouses over and over again? The city's finances must be a total disaster, constantly in debt because they're pouring all their money into repairs. Forget math class. The Rangers should have taken their business up to space a lot sooner. All right, that one was pretty obvious. Let's get nerdier. We're really getting into the iceberg now. Ever since Power Rangers Turbo, been one question on everyone's minds. Well, two, actually. First of all, why does the Blue Ranger go from a small child to a fully grown adult when he morphs? And two, who or what even is the Phantom Ranger? Before we proceed, I just want to let y'all know I'm going to be referencing the shows here. I'm not really familiar with the Boom comics, so leave your thoughts on that whole side of things down in the comments, but I'm really just focusing on what we see on screen for this video. So one theory is that the Phantom Ranger is actually Billy. There's some sense to this. The Phantom Ranger shows up about a year after Billy left Earth to live with a bunch of aliens. The Phantom Ranger also came from space, seemed to have a lot of the tech whiz knowledge Billy was famous for, but the recent Netflix special Once and Always completely undermines this, because Billy goes back to being the MMPR Ranger, and the Phantom Ranger also makes an appearance, so these are two different people. There's another theory about the Phantom Ranger though, a much darker one. Reddit user Gino Games wrote that they think the Phantom Ranger is a, quote, embodiment of all fallen or deceased Rangers, making him essentially a ghostly robot. And I like that theory. It explains the Ranger's wealth of knowledge. It's why we never see his face, if he or she or it even has one, and of course adds a lot more weight to the whole Phantom thing. Here's what a lot of fans had a hard time making sense of. Why did the Rangers ditch the Zeo powers? I mean, obviously it is to sell more toys, but in universe, I mean, the Zeo Rangers were arguably the most powerful in the entire franchise. The Zeo crystals made them stronger than ever before, and the power would progressively grow over time. This was the height of their power. So where do we go from there? Cars. You know, they get headlights on their helmets now. We go from this kind of ancient alien sort of vibe to like NASCAR superheroes. Again, aside from the running out of Super Sentai footage, this transition was just completely arbitrary in universe, seemingly anyway. Well, one theory conjured up by desperate nerds like me trying to make narrative sense of a kid's superhero show from the 90s is that these teens with attitude in their mid-20s just couldn't handle the sheer power of the Zeo crystals. It just put too much strain on their bodies. Thus, they needed to ditch the Zeo crystals and harness the power of vehicles, leading to one of the lowest points in the series. Sorry, Turbo fans, all dozen of you. From a pure design perspective, though, I will say, rad suits. And the Sentai it pulls from is insane. There. Put your torches away. Again, all dozen of you. Alright, from low to high, let's talk a bit about Time Force, hailed by fans as one of the best seasons in the franchise. Power Rangers from a dystopian future with Vernon Wells from Mad Max as your main villain. Incredible. So, we know Power Rangers has multiple dimensions, but some fans think that this Ranger team might actually be the reason those other worlds exist. The Time Force agency does whatever it takes to protect their own timeline. Their story is set in the year 3000, They have time travel, so really not a stretch to imagine the use of it altered the timeline and created these splintered off universes. Could explain why everything from MMPR to In Space is connected, and each series afterward seems to exist in its own timeline, barely ever referencing anything from before aside from the occasional guest appearance or special like Forever Red. And if you really take the time to scrutinize everything, these crossovers don't always line up. It would also explain why the MMPR Rangers suddenly have those cool armored up suits in the 1995 movie and then go back to the standard spandex for season 3. It's because they exist in 2 parallel universes. So bam, alternate timelines caused by time travel. Kinda helps explain everything and tie it together. Now, if there's any character who's the face of this franchise, it's Tommy Oliver. He totally changed the game when he showed up as the Green Ranger. So cool he got to don a whole new suit and set of powers as the White Ranger, went on to lead the team in Zeo, and he showed up throughout the series making guest appearances and even becoming a staple of Dino Thunder as a main cast member. Aside from the character just being that iconic that bringing him back would always get fans excited, there's an interesting in-universe theory as to why Tommy just couldn't seem to shake being a Ranger. Could never quite move on. He was never able to get over his not-so-great first impression when he became a pawn for Rita Repulsa, beating the ever-loving crap out of the other Rangers and nearly destroying Angel Grove. Even though he wasn't fully in control of his actions, Tommy just couldn't forgive himself. And when you look at it that way, it's kinda sad. And so is what I'm saying right now. I think I might need help. This one is less speculation and more of a darker lens to watch the show through. See, we're told that Zordon is this wise, good-hearted mentor who guides the Power Rangers, but when you really look at it, it seems like Zordon has his own hidden agenda the whole time, or at least wasn't great about how he went about his mission. One fan theory is that Zordon's goal wasn't just to protect Earth, it was to make sure his plan to release the Z-Wave would work. The Z-Wave is the huge energy blast that spread out when Zordon's energy tube was destroyed at the end of Power Rangers in Space. It wiped out most of the evil forces across the universe. Some fans believe Zordon knew this would happen all along and carefully set up events so that when the time was right, the Z-Wave would take out his enemies in one big move. The theory even suggests that he gave the Rangers weaker powers during Power Rangers Turbo on purpose. There's another explanation for that. So instead of giving them the strongest powers he could, he kept them just strong enough to hold off threats, but not strong enough to solve everything without him. That way, the final victory would still rely on Zordon's sacrifice. It's a stretch, but it is kind of fun to imagine Zordon not really being the pure, selfless hero we're led to believe he is. As if, using a bunch of innocent teenagers as pawns in your intergalactic war because they know karate didn't make that obvious enough. I never watched a single episode of Jungle Fury, just couldn't get into the designs, and I mean, I was like 15 when it came out. I was at least making an attempt to have other things on my mind outside of people in spandex fighting giant rubber monsters from Japan, but as a full-grown man, I now find myself making this video, digging into fan theories online, and from what I've seen, Casey Rhodes comes up in Power Rangers fan theories a lot. He makes a guest appearance in a later season, Super Mega Force, showing up briefly as a mentor, training the new Rangers in martial arts, but he never morphs into his Ranger form, which is weird, because most veteran Rangers who come back usually do. Even stranger, after this quick training scene, Casey pretty much vanishes from the story. Well, fans ran with this and came up with a kind of creepy theory that Casey might have actually been dead by this point. Some think he wasn't really there, that he could have been a projection from the Morphin Grid, or just a straight up ghost. The Morphin Grid has been shown to be kind of a living energy source that can connect Rangers across time and space, so it wouldn't be impossible for it to project someone like Casey to help when needed. Alright, so I gotta talk about Lost Galaxy at least once in this video. It's probably my favorite season aside from In Space. So at the end of Lost Galaxy, the Terra Venture colony crash lands on a planet called Miranoi, where the season first began. They resurrect its people who had been turned to stone. Then the colony that had been floating around on Terra Venture somehow rebuilds a fully functional city in under a year. This seems impossible if only a few dozen survivors from Terra Venture are doing the work. So the theory is that Terra Venture's crew used the people of the planet as labor. Miranoi was nothing but a jungle originally. It looked like they were just living off the land when we first see the planet. So during the Lightspeed Rescue Lost Galaxy crossover, when we see the Red Ranger Leo strolling through what appears to be this polished city with fully built streets and buildings, kind of makes you wonder who built it all. Was Terra Venture the utopia it seemed, or was the Rangers' happy new world actually built on the backs of coerced locals? These are the important questions. And we'll finish off with a fun one, also kind of a dark one. Tommy Oliver is actually Zordon. Now, that sounds like a pretty insane idea, but this actually kind of ties everything together. We've established that there are multiple universes in Power Rangers, possibly parallel ones created by the Time Force team. Now, Tommy becomes several Rangers in the series. Starts as green, nearly loses his powers completely, then becomes the White Ranger, goes on to lead Zeo as Red, then he's Turbo Red for a bit, and eventually comes back as the Black Ranger in Dino Thunder after some sporadic guest appearances in other seasons. Well, what if every time Tommy became a new Ranger, his physical body is getting weaker, but he is getting more connected to the Morphin Grid? Since we've established alternate universes and time travel is a thing, maybe Tommy in the distant future is so connected to the Morphin Grid that he sees a reality where Rita Repulsa destroys the Rangers in that time, the original MMPR team. Suddenly, all his pain, his regret, his guilt about once being Rita's top underling, it all comes racing back. No, he says, I gotta stop her before she even has a chance. So future Tommy goes back in time to stop Rita Repulsa before she even unleashes herself on the world. Sealing her in the dumpster, of course, he's also sealed away in the time warp during the fight, and thus, there we are at the start of MMPR. Tommy, in this desperate attempt for ultimate redemption, ends up setting everything in motion. True or not, that's a pretty cool story. With all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.